Namaste, welcome to the live talk show. Today, the series is the Mindset Mentor with my mentor, John Scott. I would like to warm welcome everyone here. Join with us today for this discussion about what is Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga tradition. So, let me patch through my teacher and my mentor, Mr. John Scott or Johnny. Okay. Warm welcome. Those who were here before, welcome back. So today my topic is about Ashtanga Vinyasa tradition. So, okay. Hello. Hi.
Namaskar, Victor.
Namaskar. Namaskar. So what a surprise you're here with us with your busy schedule, but I'm very happy to invite you to my live talk show discussing the Mindset Mentor about the Ashtanga Vinyasa tradition.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you. I've always enjoyed our conversations.
That's great. First of all, I would like to say, Guru, Namaste, Namaskaram.
Just call me Johnny.
All right.
Just call me Johnny.
Okay. All right. So, okay, I wanna ask you first. Maybe let's jump into it. Why Johnny? Why not John Scott?
Well, it's the whole journey of yoga, and the whole journey of yoga is to be complete. To be complete as you are. Let's say, for example, Victor, we're born into this world with nothing. We leave this world as nothing. We're actually born into this world complete with everything that we need to live here. And if we are able to live life with nothing, as nothing, then we are able to fully experience this existence. So our experiential existence is this life. However, we are born into something that's different. We're born into a paradigm at the moment that's controlled by a minority group of people. And so let's just call it the material world. We arrive in this material world and we are programmed to be part of that material world. And so the biggest paradox of all is that I arrived in Mysore to Pattabhi Jois, my teacher, my Guruji, as Johnny Scott. And at the time there was a Johnny Smith in the Shala.
All right.
And to save confusion, Guruji decided to call me just John Scott. Now, John Scott was my father's name, and I was always called Johnny. And so, however, when Guruji called me John Scott, my ego took it. My ego took it, and I think at that point in my life, not knowing, I grew up. I grew up and became an adult. I'm actually 30 years of age when I start this yoga practice, 32 when I meet Guruji. So I'm 32 and changing the name from Johnny to John Scott. And let's say, basically the practice of yoga, my Western interpretation of what I was doing drove me, ego-driven, drove me to become somebody. To become,
you mean ahankara?
Yeah, to be in my ahankara, my unique individual self, not the intelligent soul self, but that part of the unique self that we then call personality and ego, latched on to the becoming somebody-ness. And so I became somebody within the Ashtanga world right at the very early stage. I'd say I was in the second wave of students going through Pattabhi Jois. So indirectly, the practice drove my ego to become John Scott, a product of the Western material world yoga. And so So paradoxically, I lost my childlike wonder to the world of experience. The practice indirectly driven by the Western programming, my ego took it and I became a product of yoga. When
So you're trying to go back to the source.
Exactly. So when I realized that, I had to let it go. To find my selfless self, to let go of the self-important self, to let go of the selfish self-important self, to find my selfless self.
After I hear you saying this, can I share something?
Absolutely, Victor.
Okay. I think it's sort of like you drawn back from the material world and going back to the source. And it sort of reminds me the Gita, Samyama Yoga, which is the inward journey.
Yes.
So it's to pull back and drawn back to the source, to find the true self, like Atman in the Gita or Yoga Sutra.
Yeah. So in the Gita, Krishna is saying to Arjuna that, the ruin of man is going out through those senses. So in terms of our asana, our five senses are like five doors or five gateways that we go out into the material world. And we go out to be attached to the material world, and we go out to be gratified in the material world. And this gratification and overstimulation in five different directions causes the mind to be too busy, too clouded, misidentified. So we're misidentified with the material world, where the pratyahara, the yoga, is that inward journey that you're talking about. So instead of going out through the five doors, we go in through the five doors to reveal further doors that lead to the heart. And when we find the door of the heart, then it changes. So Guruji said to me that the yoga was posture, free breathing, looking place. And the looking place, the Tristana, and the trifocus leading to a drishti. That drishti is to as you said, para atman, the atman within, but the Brahman, the ultimate
source,
source. Yes. So where the ego is tricked into going out, we then have to harness that ego and say, no, you need to do your tapas. We need to cause that friction. We need to go against the grain of all of our conditioning.
That's beautiful. So let me ask you a question. So 32 years old, Johnny is arriving in India in Mysore. This is where all begin. But why? I mean, why Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga tradition? What drives you to be there? As an Indian, I mean, I'm very happy that, you followed the great culture but yoga also, it's a Sarvasara Bahuma. It's a universal culture. It's for everyone. But what drives you to be there and to choose this Ashtanga Vinyasa tradition?
I have to use a famous quote: when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. So my first teacher was Derek Ireland, and I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to say when I met Derek or saw Derek prior to that, I was really wanting to study Tai Chi and become a Tai Chi teacher. I knew that I was a teacher, but I was destined to do Tai Chi. But my Tai Chi teacher said, wait till you meet Derek. When I met Derek, I thought I met Tarzan. I didn't know Shiva at that time, but he could have been Shiva or a Greek god. And I'm not embarrassed to say I fell in love with Derek. What I fell in love with was his image. And so, yes, on a material level, I was already looking at wanting to look beautiful, wanting to look like Tarzan myself, And so my vanity sucked me in, but that's a surface level. So on the surface material Western level, I got sucked in to wanting to look feel good.
The Annamaya Kosha, not even not Pranamaya too.
I hadn't even meet the Pranamaya Kosha. But it's great that you direct me there, because it was actually practicing with Derek that I connected energetically. So on the pranamaya kosha level,
the fourth layer, yes.
What hooked into me was the breath. So I got hooked into the breath. But when we're talking about free will, we also can ask the question: who is making the decisions? And to jump to it directly, is it your ego that's making the decision, or is it your soul making the decision?
Mostly ego. I want this.
Exactly,
yeah,
that's right. So mostly the ego's directing all of the choices, but the bigger picture is being directed by the soul. So when I say when the student's ready, the teacher arrives.
Right.
So it just happened to be coincidental that the practice that Derek was about to go and learn himself, he hadn't met Patabi Joyce at this point, but it was actually Norman Allen that had taught Derek. So
which year around? Maybe I didn't even born, I think.
Yeah, I met Derek in 1987.
Okay, I was born in 86. Okay, I was a 1 year baby, I think.
yeah. So 1987, I started practicing with Derek, and in 1989, I then went to Mysore.
Wow. That's where all began. It's almost 40 years almost. Oh, no, 32?
Yes. So by synchronicity, I came across Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga from the beginning, and my first teacher was on his way to the source, and the current source was Patabi Joyce. And so he gave me the key. He said, you go to Mysore. He actually wrote to me in those days of writing letters. Derek wrote to me and said, if you really want to do this, you must come to Mysore. And so it took me from the 87 to 89 to arrive in Mysore in 89 in India, March, and I went twice in the 1 year. So I had 3 months, went out, came back in, and stayed 4 monts. And I
all right, so that's great.
Every year for 10 years in a row. Until it got difficult with babies.
Okay, so great. I think I've seen a approach genuinely with the flow that you are connected Annamaya Kosha physically, and then you move on to Pranamaya Kosha. So now I'm adding the third Manamaya Kosha. I think I'm looking at that now. So it's not even Vijnanamaya Kosha, the intellect part. So where are you in yoga right now to yourself? Can you honestly share with us?
I'm waking up.
Okay.
So there's let's say there's basically two wake ups. One waking up out of sleep, and the other is waking up into life. To wake up into life
spiritually
is to know where you are, to know where you've come from, to know what you're doing, to know what you are, to know where you're going. So this really is the metaphor of Vinyasa. The metaphor of Vinyasa is to come from nothing, zero, come into form, and go back to nothing, zero. The zero is samastitihi. So let's say the samastitihi represents the unmanifest, and that's where you download the posture that you're going to practice, or the sequence you're going to practice. And so from zero, you start choreographing the counted breath movement. So where am I in my life and practice at the moment is, yes, I'm definitely working on that Manamaya Kosha. I'm using the counted method as mantra method. That the secret to yoga, Victor, is not a secret. We share, it's a breath. So yes, that pranamaya kosha hooked.
Tell me, it's good. Yeah, I think, I'm sorry to stop you. So I think you mentioned earlier when you met Derek also, it was on the superficial layer, but you are kind of got hooked or driven by this breath or pranamaya kosha. Now you also mentioned the breath is the key. So tell me, what is the importance of the breath in the Ashtanga Vinyasa tradition, or even general?
Well,
prana.
Let's not use the phrase the Ashtanga Yoga tradition, because it's a conditioning.
Okay.
What really is true Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga? What really is true yoga? Let's just call it true yoga.
Okay.
And the true yoga is, what is yoga? Yoga is meditation.
Dhyana. Yeah.
So I was on the superficial level. I was on the Annamaya Kosha level, but connecting to the Pranamaya Kosha level, really working it out. And Guruji said, pointing at me, that man is only exercising.
Okay. And you said that to me too in the training.
Yes. So when he said that to me, he said yoga is meditation. And so from going out, it was the turning the journey in. And he's saying it's counted method. And it's at this point in time that Lino Miali and I were researching the counted method, the Ekam Due Trini. And what we realized was that when Guruji was counting us through individually, separately in Mysore, he was counting all the time in one-on-one. It was only when he went internationally that he counted everybody together. But this is the big thing that people didn't realize, that in Mysore he was counting, but he would say, Chitwari, jump back, puncher up dog, shut down dog. So I thought puncher meant up dog, not 5. When we understood that he was counting, we then understood that what he was doing, like a transcendental meditation teacher, he was transmitting to us the mantra, the count. So I take the liberty.
The counted method.
Yeah, he was transmitting it to us. So the manas mind is mantra. The manas mind, or mantra, is for the manas mind, that ordinary, where the samskaras are, the ordinary thinking mind, that part of the mind, out through the senses, in through the senses, all of the gratification, all of that busyness, all of that distraction is what poisons our mind. It's our own mind that causes all of the suffering. So when we talk about mind, the chitta. So when we or the vritti, the chitta is that consciousness.
Steady one.
Yeah, the vritti is the turning things around, from the experience to the product. And so what we have here is that we've got that we cause our own suffering. So mantra is the secret on top of the secret. The secret is breath. So the breath, once we control and count even the breath, we then start to calm our nervous system down. Now, the secret to the secret is that on top of the breath is mantra. True meditation is mantra and breath. So we can have a static meditation, and we can have, as Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga is, it's a dynamic meditation. And so I have now been counting for 30 years. Let's say I've been practicing 37 years. Let's say for at least 30 years, I have been counting. I have been counting my every breath movement in my asana practice, so I know exactly where I am in the count. So I've said this in another interview. A counter knows what it's like for a non-counter to be lost.
Wow. I'm lost now. Can you explain that, please, a bit?
So the non-counter who is lost doesn't know the clarity of a counter. Let's put it this way. A meditator can understand how confused a non-meditator is. A non-meditator doesn't know what it is to have the clarity of a mind that can meditate. Okay? So a non-counter doesn't know what it's like to be a counter. But a counter, so I'm just finishing off a teacher training at the moment, and I know where everybody in the room is. I know where the mistakes are, all of it. I know exactly where I am. I'm right there. I've got a bigger, open, more perspective of what reality is, what's happening. Those that are asleep, I can see they're asleep. I can see they're thinking. Can see they're in the past. And so what we're using, the breath, is Guruji actually called it mind control. We're using mantra, or the counted method, to control our manas mind. So our manas mind functions the way it's supposed to function, just simply bring the input and then flip it across into the buddhi, into the intelligence. That's where we should be making our decisions, from the intelligent part of the mind, the buddhi, not from the manas mind. But most of us make our decisions in life from our manas mind because we are controlled by our senses and gratification. And the whole system is money driven, the whole system is product driven, and the whole system is driven in terms of we all going out into that material world. And so when we control the manas mind, we steady the mind. Now we've got a steady mind, a sharp mind, an intelligent mind to be able to free your mind.
That's great. So I'd like to pause in a bit. So since you have come to that mind substance, so we're moving on to Manomaya Kosha, to the Vijnana Maya Kosha. Since our topic today is about the mindset mentor, is to have a mindset. Give us some insights that in order to have that mindset, to let go all these positions, ahankara, all this validation seeking, externally going out or looking at ourselves, who's the best in a practice, just stuck in the asana. So can you give us some insights to accelerate or to rise above the level of practice in the yoga?
So if you understand that your manas mind, that ordinary thinking mind, the mind that's thinking, causes us all the problem. I mentioned you come in empty, nothing, but you come in complete. You go out complete, you go out empty with nothing. You are taught to think, Victor. The baby does not think for the first 5 years. It's responding. It's responding to what is. And we're taught, we're programmed to think. So to be your tada drastu swarupe avasanam, to be the seer, so to be the seer in one's natural state, our natural state is to be in meditation, connected to our environment, connected to what's all going around, responding to it appropriately, right action. If you put it into discussion and thinking, then of course you're going to then start causing judgment. And the moment there is judgment, there's a duality. So this is where I'm at in practice, is I'm wanting to live intelligently. So how do I get to operate into the intelligence? I actually have to be honest with myself and understand that most of the time I'm causing all my problems. I'm causing all my suffering.
So this is all the overall intentions, right? The intentions of the mindset.
Yes. So let's have a look this way. How many people in the world have a mindset? What is a mindset? What produces a mindset? A mindset needs to someone to have a sadhana. A sadhana,
practice.
Let's make it easier. A practice. Let's make it even easier again. A discipline. Now, let's say that this discipline is not an outside body of control disciplining you. You're doing like you're going to the gym because you want to go to the gym. You then set your day up so that you can get to the gym either before work, after work, or at lunchtime. You discard the things that are going to get in the way because you want to do something. You want to do it with passion. You want to do it with vigor. Yeah, that's true self-discipline. And that leads to then, as I said about the passion. Passion is fire. That fire is the friction of tapas. That we're doing these disciplines or these practices or these sadhanas so that we can burn with the tapas, the friction, to rub against all of our programming, all of the negative belief systems that don't serve us. And that's all education. It's all education. It's all government. It's all religion. It's all cultural conditioning. Now, when the
program,
it's a program. Yeah. When the baby comes in, it's not conditioned. It gets conditioned. So samsara hala hala moha shantiye. We live this. Yeah, we're wanting to remove the poison of conditioned existence. This paradigm we live in. So, I've been calling myself a pirate. I've been calling myself a rebel, and I really had to call myself out. I had to call myself out and go, hang on. But pirates and rebels, they physically fight the system. And I go, well, what am I rebelling? And I go, Jonathan Livingston Seagull wasn't a rebel. Yes, he was outcasted from society because he wasn't following the conditionings of society, the rules. Okay. I go, no, so what was Jonathan doing? Jonathan just wanted to know what the truth of a seagull was. What was it to truly be a seagull, and what was it truly to fly? And so what I then realized is I'm not a rebel, I'm a seeker. Yogis are seekers. We're seeking the ultimate truth.
Right.
And so how can we establish how do we set up the parameters of that? We need to have our sadhana, we have to have our discipline, we have to have that which brings us to account, if I play on the word. You need a practice. So if you have a look at, just take your day, you can say, without a mindset, at least 96% of your day would be suffering because of the duality and the dialogue that's in your head, the yes, the no's, all the criticisms, all of the judgments, or all of the ego-driven stuff that causes the problem. Okay? Let's say most people in the world, as the Buddha said, is suffering.
Dukkha and sukha, there are two.
Yeah. And so I got this from a wealth dynamics in Australia. I was at a time when I was trying to increase my wealth dynamics, not my health dynamics or my love wealth. And there was this astounding statistic that in Australia, which is one of the free countries of the world, one of the land of plenties, 96% of the population died in negative balance. Bank balance. In Australia. 3% of the population, zero bank account, and 1% of the population in Australia passed on inheritance. And I went, oh, that's the world, really. 1% of the world control the world economically. And then, because I'm a designer, I make a little parallel shift, and my little parallel shift is go, okay, let's look at what the Buddha says and put those exact figures there. 96% of the population in the world are in dukkha. 3%. Wow.
That's vast. That's a lot.
Yeah. 3% of the population have a mindset, a practice of some sort, a discipline of whatever. And 1% of the population have sukha, bodhisattvas.
Sukha.
True
happiness.
True
contentment.
True contentment. True liberation. Even the 3% is not liberated. They might be living peacefully because their bank balance is working and the home is working, etc., the job, but they're not liberated, autonomous, their own sovereign. This is what a yogi seeking. A yogi seeking sovereignty, liberation, autonomy. Yeah.
Can you tell us the sorry, please continue.
I was going to say, you also asked me where I was at, so where I'm at is I want to be authentic. Okay, I want to be,
all right.
And I totally honest. Yes, I've been a pirate. I've been a rebel. I'm even a rebel within the Ashtanga Vinyasa community, because most of the Ashtanga people out there don't know what they're doing. They're just doing a third of the practice.
Asana, the third limb.
They're just doing the third limb. They might be doing a bit of pranayama. You asked me the importance of the breath, and you've heard me talk about the three-dimensional breath.
Right.
There's a length, there's a width, there's a depth. You're not just breathing in and out.
Right. Of course.
That third depth, the third dimension, gets you arriving in this three-dimensional world. And if you start counting the vinyasa, and you master the three-dimensional breath, it's the door to the other dimensions. We live in a
I remember when you taught me
universe.
And when you taught me it's to free the heart, you said, I remember when you direct my breath in the training, when I was with you, you said you're pushing the breath so that you can direct the breath, the three-dimensional breath, is to free the heart. The ribcage metaphor, you talked about the freedom, Yes. Can you give us some insights about it, the breathing importance?
Well, breath is life.
It is.
It's quite simply that. It's the elixir of life. And do we sniff at life? Most people are one-dimensional beings. They don't even know they are breathing. The 40 pounds per square inch pressure, air pressure, is breathing them. Something greater, a greater force is breathing them. God, whatever you want to call it, is keeping them alive. And then you get the people that start to exercise, and the exercisers learn to breathe in and out. Let's call that two-dimensional breathing, just breathing in and out. But then when you start to realize, no, to actually arrive, fully arrive present in this 3D reality, yes, so there's a solid table here, there's a solid chair here, yeah, these are givens, we are born into this. There's 50% of what happens around us is given. The other 50% is how we respond to it. That's our responsibility in life, is to respond to what we have arrived to. So anyway, so the three-dimensional breath is that when you have arrived in the third dimension, the next dimension is space-time. To realize that you're a space-time continuum, and so Patanjali, Shiva, they're known
Shakti.
as they're known as Sarvajanas. Sarvajanas are ones who hold time in their hand.
Oh wow!
So to hold time in your hand, so Shiva holds time in his hand, and what that means is that he knows the past, he knows the future, he knows the present. It's all in. There's no such thing as linear time. It's all happening now. The multi-dimensional world, the door to that fourth dimension is first the third dimension. You have to arrive in that three-dimensional breathing to get to the fourth dimension. And if you're counting your breath body movements of this three-dimensional breath, you will hold time in your hand. You will stretch time. You will stop time. You'll speed time up, however you want to do that, because time is only a concept.
So therefore, it's not in the asana transition that we do in Vinyasa, or it's not the holding or looking place. It's the momentum that you're directing the breath towards the source and finding that dimensional breath. And that's what is the importance of the breath in order to have that, the vritti mind, to bring that chitta completely steady and stira. I say stira sukha asanam, if I'm quoting to Yoga Sutras.
You might remember this phrase that I was saying. It's actually the law of manifestation. The law of manifestation is like this. There's mind. Okay, there's mind. So mind is the creator, an idea. You keep that idea, a single idea. Yeah, and with that
like
creative,
drishti.
Yeah, that creative idea with the drishti, where the mind goes, the prana goes. Okay, so the prana breath goes. Where the mind and that drishti of that one creative idea, it is then through the energy, the prana, the breath, the particle world, the material world, the manifest world responds. Or you could say the body responds. You got that?
Can you just
So
describe
where the mind, hang on, let me I'll make it more clear. Where the mind goes, the breath goes, the body responds. Yeah. Now I have to tell you what stuffs that up. Be specific. The mind, the creator, creates an idea, one idea. This is ekagra, one singular thought that you put your drishti on, and you put your intention on, you put your energy on, and you manifest it. The moment you have two ideas, not one, two ideas, you're thinking. The moment you start thinking, the whole thing collapses. It becomes dualistic. You're not the creator anymore. This is wealth dynamics. This is manifestation dynamics. This is health dynamics. This is manifestation of health, wealth, everything, by knowing that your mind is the creator. It creates the idea, one idea, not two, not three, not four. But in the Western world, more is better. And the bigger the idea, better. Yeah, the more complex the idea, better. No, that shuts the system down. And so the true wealth dynamics, or the true manifestation law, is one singular idea. This is yoga. Stop the thinking. How do we stop the thinking? Mantra breath. I keep going back there. Mantra and breath. The two secrets, Victor. The number one secret is the breath, that three-dimensional breath, yes, is the door to the other dimensions, this multi-dimensional reality where space-time is all happening at the same time. There cannot be a future. There is never a future. And this is one of the biggest lies, is karma. Everyone's afraid of their karma. They're afraid of their future. There's no future. The future does not exist. When you understand, if you change now, if you make a positive change now, you burn your karma.
All right. That's quite an intense practice or sadhana to do with the ekagrata. You said one-pointed drishti. Well,
Yeah.
I have one question for you. The tradition, a yoga tradition, and the innovation styles of yoga that we end up lost ourselves in this ocean or this vast knowledge that competing or sort of distorted or got confused to find ourselves in this sadhana. So where are we now? If you're looking around, why I'm sharing this because earlier you said they were just doing the shallow, or you notice the practitioners around just on the stuck in one point. So how do you lead us or tell us to have that mindset in order to have that ekagrata?
Well, let's just say that, you know, it was I heard this very first expressed from Richard Freeman. I remember Richard Freeman saying yoga begins with listening. And then when I heard that statement, I really inquired into it. Of course, it's the beginning of pratyahara. It's the most subtle of all of the five senses. And you then realize, and because I'm a designer, I like making connections and joining dots and seeing the sacred geometry of it all, that connected to the sense organ, the ears, and the sense of hearing is the element space. So the five senses connect to the five elements. And so you start to realize that pratyahara is a very, very important tool. So yoga begins with listening, but a lot of us weren't ready to hear anything other than our own voice and our own thoughts when we first met Pattabhi Jois. So not many people heard exactly what he was saying. Plus, lost in translation, he didn't have a good command of the English language. Mr. Iyengar had a much better repertoire of words, and his English was very good. But Guruji, his communication was more, you know, it's our nervous systems that are communicating. And with Guruji, it was the physical contact that was the communication device more than the voice part of the nervous system. But when he was using words like ekam dve trini chatwari, if we did not hear that, yeah, it's only now, you know, because Lino and I started it 30 years ago, and I've made my life work sharing the count. I'm now very known for sharing the count. I want the student, I want the practitioner to be counting, because I know that this mantra, if I call it mantra, this mantra is what keeps the mind steady. It's what quietens the mind. We need it. And if you start to use the mantra, breath, and body movement, you take yourself either into self-hypnosis, you take yourself into either trance. If you take yourself into hypnosis trance, you're taking yourself into transcendence. You're transcending the manas mind. Okay? So now let's have a look at brainwave frequencies. We used to be alpha frequency. We went as a species, communing with nature, living in nature. We were an alpha, but then when we moved to cities, we became more beta. When we're thinking, every time we're thinking, and in our conversation now, we're flipping in and out of beta and alpha, beta and alpha. Okay, because we're focusing on a subject matter and a topic, we're staying sort of somewhere a little bit into an alpha state, but most of the time it's beta. In the practice, when you're working with the breath and you're working with the mantra, you'll drop very quickly from the ordinary thinking beta brainwave frequency into alpha. Now, if you keep going, what is self-hypnosis? It's dropping from alpha into theta. We're dropping into a different brainwave frequency. Now, when I mentioned that the baby comes in empty, complete, nothing, they're in theta. And this is the paradoxical situation. They are absorbing everything. They're in absorption, which is samadhi. They're in total absorption of the experience of this arrival, this birth into this three-dimensional reality, from the unmanifest into this little body, this big soul into this little body, and they're fully into the absorption of the experience. The paradox is, through that absorption, they absorb language patterns, body patterns, all of these programs start going in. And of course, then the switch gets turned on around about 2 years of age. It starts to happen that the hippocampus starts to make files, starts to make memory. And once we start laying down memory, those are going into the manas mind as samskaras, the imprints. Yeah, the every time something said no or yes or whatever, that's all happening. And so we slowly come out of the theta frequency. Now, having said that, that was like self-hypnosis or trance-like situation. If you're doing mantra, breathing and moving, let's just say you're singing and dancing, you can take yourself into a trance state. Now, you might be able to even go to a state that's deeper, where you're downloading information. If you're downloading information, you're connecting to the Akashic records. So let's say this is where the beautiful mantra Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhi Swaha comes into us. That if we translate it, means gone, perfectly and totally gone, perfectly beyond awakening. Yes, it means you've gone beyond the singular identity name. You've gone beyond the singular identity name and form. This body, male body. Yeah. You've gone.
So it's like Purusha. It's like Purusha.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So you go beyond name, form. You go beyond time. So you actually go beyond age. You become time. When you hold time in your hand, you become ageless.
Right.
Yeah.
We wish we can.
Most of us are. No, but if you're in this pratyahara and you're starting to get into dharana dhyana, then of course your brainwave frequency is changing. As your brainwave frequency changes, it's only in the beta brainwave frequency that you're stuck at this particular age, this particular size, this particular weight, this particular male-female body, this particular long legs, short spine. Whatever the judgment, criticism, or analysis will be, that's all, messing it all around. We want to transcend that. And so we have tools and techniques. So the asana, the breath, and the mantra, or the counted method, are tools. They're just purely tools to take us beyond the vrittis, the turnings of the mind, the misidentification of what's happening in our interaction with this thing called the 3D reality around us.
So the mind, the breath, and the body, the Trinity, are the tools to lead to the Purusha. So tell us, I've seen your, often you quote, and then also I've seen in your Instagram the tops like reclaiming your own Purusha or sovereignty. Can you tell us about something about it?
Well, what is liberation?
Kaivalya?
True liberation is not being a slave to anybody. True liberation is not being a slave to an outside body of control, or true liberation is not to be controlled by food, drink, products. True liberation is not to be controlled by your own programming, belief systems, and negative thoughts. To really be free, so to be in the Garden of Eden, to have dominion over your body. Yeah, so we use those three, that trinity: the agency to have passion and the fire to live this life, to have this agency to direct your energy. You have to have dominion. You have to have, this is my body and I say what I do with this body. Nobody else tells me what I have to do this with body. I think Meryl Streep was saying something that a female cat in America has far more rights than a female woman in America.
Wow.
So yeah, so what is sovereignty? The sovereignty is to be the own king or queen of your own Garden of Eden. Now, when you say Purusha, and I then say, okay, let's say soul and ego, our ego self is embodied. Our soul self is having a human experience. Our soul self is still sleeping, having this dream. So when I said about waking up, we wake up from sleep, but we want to wake up into this life to realize, no, my soul is dreaming this experience. It's just an experience. It's just a game. Let's wake up into this. And when we start to realize the rules of the game, we go, hang on, this is my life. So the Purusha is sort of like your soul. The Purusha is your overseer. So Adhikara, or even say, let's say Raj Yoga. What does Raj Yoga mean? Raja is king.
Meditation.
The king. Yeah. So one who's in the meditation and in that place, their higher self is making all the choices. When the higher self is making the choices and the ego self's not making the choices, then this is you having true Purusha. This is you having true liberation. You're free from the ego mind. You're free from the attachments. You're free from desires. Yeah. So when you understand that, you have nothing. You come into the world with nothing. When you realize you have nothing, then everything is at your reach. Everything is possible.
All right. Okay, so I would like to take some questions. Sorry, I would like to take some questions from the audience that, I've seen one of the question, how not to be dominated by the body in case of illness and physical pain, by Alba Chahawaimio. Yeah. So audience, if you have any questions, you can give us a question. We have a couple of minutes now, about to wrap up the show soon. So please answer that question, please. How not to be dominated by the body? Yeah. How not to be dominated by the body in case of illness and physical pain?
It's a tough question. It's a very hard question, because there is a point when the illness is so debilitating, there's nothing you can do. And so there's always the state of having to go backwards. But if there's an illness, first of all, you have to start to run the inquiry. What is the illness, and what are the conditions that made the illness able to arise in your body? What led up to it? So you have to become like an investigator, and you need to investigate your life. What have I done to my body for my body to be like this? So that's the first thing, is to not be in denial that you are a victim of someone or some disease or something, that you yourself have created the conditions for this to arise. Why? How? When? Okay? So the best thing is that, remember, if if the sum total of yoga is meditation, you can always meditate lying down. You can always meditate lying down and focus on the breathing. You can always then start to realize that if you can have a creative thought, my idea is I'm going to heal myself, I am healed. And you keep that singular thought, then where the mind goes, the breath goes, send it to the part of the body that needs to be healed. To also realize that your Sushumna Nadi, the Shumna Nadi is the truth Nadi. The Sushumna Nadi is the purity Nadi. The Sushumna Nadi is love. It's the Ida and the Pingala that causes us the problems. The Pingala is the sun channel, and that's the material world. And the Ida is the Chandra, the moon channel, and that's the emotional world. So like the stars at night, that's all our emotional little lights going off. And the anything physical, like our body, our physical body, it's the thought, the physical body thought flows through the sun channel, and your relationship, how you feel, your emotions are tied up in the moon channel. If you focus on your breathing and try to balance the sun and moon channel out, this is what Hatha Yoga is. So Hatha Yoga is balancing the sun and moon channels out. Now, you start lying down. You start from lying down to sitting. If you can then get from lying down to sitting to standing, you then start to realize that with the breath, you can do extension on the inhale. You can do flexion on the exhale. So you start to synchronize all of the inhalations are extension, all the exhalations are flexions. You add to that this is not just an inhale, exhale, it's a three-dimensional. Can I breathe three-dimensionally? Can I breathe length, width, and depth as I inhale, extend? Can I then reduce that right to a singularity? You start to realize that you have a singularity. You have a single point of reference on this physical realm, but you then have from that finite an infinite expanding consciousness. And so when you realize that you have that infinite expanding consciousness, you realize that you have the power to heal yourself. Nobody is going to heal you. You're going to have to do it yourself unless you need surgery. There is places.
Okay.
There is place for surgery, but it's basically a manifestation of the state of mind.
We have a next question. Thank you for answering that. So by Michelle, she's asking, is the Ashtanga Vinyasa practice sufficient to experiment dhyana and samadhi in long run? Does it need to be integrated with regular sit meditation or in general Kriya Yoga practice?
Well, all of the 8 limbs are being practiced at the same time within asana. But you can use it as cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. If you take asana as a cause, the effect of asana, the effect of postural aligning will give you a better breath. So asana leads into pranayama. The more postural awareness you have, the more you're creating the space for the breath to then not just be an in and an out, it becomes that three-dimensional breath. If the breath then becomes a cause, the effect of breathing means that you get a better focus, you get a better pratihara. Your senses are now being controlled in terms of, focused or directed to the breath. Now, if you've got asana that's giving you the breath and breath that's giving you the focus, the focus becomes a cause. The effect of focusing after a period of time becomes concentration. There is a formula for that, a Vedic formula, and the Vedic formula for dharana, which is yogic concentration, is 12 seconds. So, for example, if you do a 6-second exhalation and a 6-second inhalation, which could be Om Namah Shivaya on the exhale, and Om Namah Shivaya on it, that's a 12-second breath cycle, you're already in dharana. If you're listening to the sound of the breath, feeling the flow of the breath, if you're visualizing the breath, if you're filtering at the back of your throat and you're smelling the fragrance of it, all 5 senses are experiencing that breath, then you are in already dharana. Now there is the formula, the Vedic formula goes on to say that dhyana, meditation, is a multiplicity of dharana. So you multiply by 12. It's a multiplication of 12. Dharana is 12 seconds. Then dhyana, the doorway to enter the state of dhyana, is a further 12 times 12, which is 144, which is roughly 2.4 minutes. So it's actually possible to achieve dhyana, the doorway to dhyana, in literally 2.5 minutes. And that's astounding. Now, most of us would have to say that's not possible if we were to be really truth and honest. And what it is because our mind is breaking. The continuum is being broken. The breath has been broken. So, for example, Chitwari, if you hold your breath when you're going to Chitwari, then the breath sequence is broken. If we continue with the formula, the Vedic formula, then Samadhi is a multiplicity of dhyana. And if dhyana is only 2.5 minutes, let's say, then Samadhi is only 28 minutes away. If you consider this call that Victor and I are on, and if you've been focusing, and if you've been listening to this live chat, then we are all definitely in dharana. We're definitely all in dharana. We're definitely concentrating and listening to the information that's being discussed. If we stayed long enough with our subject matter, we could definitely get into dhyana. We could be in a state of meditation. And so in the Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga practice, if you practice it as per the method that Guruji was teaching, you can definitely get to a point where you transcend your limited individual self. When you transcend your limited individual self, you are timeless, you are ageless, you are sexless. Yeah, you are just energy moving into and out of form. This is what real true meditation is. So meditation is to not just be on the mat sitting or dynamically moving, but to take that meditation as you walk, as you sit, as you cook, as you clean, as you engage with another person. This is what I'm saying is our natural state. Our natural state was meditation. And in that place, we're responding to what is around us, not reacting to what's around us. Most of us are in a state of reaction, and that's the 96th percentile of us. Yeah, if we have this practice and we understand the dynamics of the breath, simply the breath is the tool. You don't have to be doing asana, and you don't have to be sitting. You can be breath aware no matter what you're doing. And that's one of the things, to go back to Victor's earlier question, where am I now? Well, after 37 years of practicing yoga, the main thing that I'm doing is breathing, being conscious to my breath. And if I'm being conscious to my breath, what that means is I'm holding time in my hands. It means that I do have the opportunity, if I need to slow things down, so that instead of going into a reflex of reaction to what is, I can respond. That's our only responsibility we have in life, is what is our ability to respond to what's happening around us. And so I don't know whether I've answered your question directly. I've sort of gone around in a bigger sort of philosophical way, that most of us are stuck with the attachment to correct asana, and that basically within asana there is a static posture. So within the Vinyasa system, there is the dynamic meditation, which is the breath movements into the state of the asana, and the breath movements out of the state of the asana. That's called dynamic meditation, and they are free breaths. That's free breathing. When you arrive in the state of the asana, which could be Padmasana, which is the seat, classic seat for meditation, seated meditation, but it could be Trikonasana, for example. There's no difference between Trikonasana and Padmasana. You're holding it for 5 breaths only, but Guruji asked me when I went home to do it for 8 breaths. You could do it for longer. Can you achieve Sthira-Sukha in Trikonasana? So Trikonasana becomes a state, a meditation posture. So we have not just static meditation, we have dynamic meditation, if you understand the full concept of Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga.
All right. So I think I like the dhyana part, the countered, very mathematical, but a systematic flow to direct our breath. And then we kind of, I hope everyone that listening to this podcast and the live talk with Johnny, discussing about this, having a mindset in your sadhana and having a mindset in your life and having a mindset with ourselves. So it was a great journey, I would say. But for my personal sharing, I think it's a difficult practice for most of us, but I hope we all can get there with your insights. Still, as you said, you are in the pranamaya kosha, in the koshas layer, but in the Ashtanga yoga system, you're in the pranayama step, the fourth limb.
Yeah.
So in order to lead us, the dhyana, dharana, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and what leads to samadhi, it's still a question mark because we're all sort of distorted with this style of practices and kind of taken away with between the tradition and innovation. So can you give us the insights before? Yeah.
Let go of too much innovation. How much do we need to innovate? The moment that we really innovate, we're putting too much of our self-imposed story into it.
Let go. That's what you say.
Let go. Yeah. So
the mindset is let go.
The mindset is let go. Let the practice do the work. You know, if the ego is innovating to change it to make it work, this practice, if we look at the tradition of what yoga is, not necessarily, let's call it the style Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga. You'll notice I won't just call it Ashtanga yoga. I call it Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga because it's the method that I'm practicing is Vinyasa. The principle of philosophy is the Eightfold Path that Patanjali shares. The state is yoga. Okay, so the method, the principles are the Ashtanga. The method is Vinyasa. But we're looking for yoga. We're looking for meditation. We're not looking at becoming innovators within a system that is already working. It's not broken. It doesn't need to be fixed.
Johnny,
so if we get
tell me, what is alignment?
Seeing God. Mainline
within you, or
within
the external
you,
or the internal? Within you.
Both. Within you, without you, seeing God all around you, being aligned with what is. We think
so we must continue to inquire. Go on, please.
Yeah, we think it's the hip, knee, ankle, but in the process of lining the hip, knee, ankle, this is the paradox. The paradox is that we are a sentient being. We are a soul being having a physical experience. Our physical body is our territory. It is our vehicle. It is our experimental lab. Yeah. And because we've become conditioned and domesticated over our teenage years, our young adult years, we've lost the connection to our body. We've lost the connection to that thing that we chose to manifest in. So this is the paradox. We have to go back and do some work. So from one fundamental level, it's a spring cleaning. We're spring cleaning the body. We're trying to connect to that. You were talking about the pranamaya kosha. If you wanted, in the Indian system, there was no bones. It was just the body. Yeah, the annamaya kosha was all one. And then there was the pranamaya kosha. They went straight from body to energy systems, to chakras. Yeah, to nadis, to channels of energy, prana going through. And then they went to mind, to the thinking part. And then they went to intelligence. And then they went to consciousness. You see, so the thing is not to get trapped with the style and the actual product of asana. The asana is just a vehicle. You want to be inhabiting a healthy body. You want to be inhabiting a body that is full and free of movement. When you're 80, 90, you don't want to be arthritic. You don't want to be having hip replacement, knee replacements. You want to be looking after your body. It's your temple. That's what you chose to come and to have the last 10, 15, 20 years of your life suffering in a body that's broken. Who wants that? You know, so I'm next month I'm turning 67, and what's important to me
Happy birthday.
Thank you. What's important for me is not how far my leg goes behind my back, but do I have knee functioning? Do I have ankle functioning? Do I have hip functioning? Yeah. Have I got a full and free range of motion without pain? Yeah. That's what I'm looking for. Can I sit on the ground and stand up off the ground as my Guruji did at 90? He was able to stand and sit down because he didn't lose the connection to Earth, Mother Earth, with his hands. He still had a certain amount of baby movements that he never lost. And most of us lose all our flexibility as baby, all of the fundamental foundations that we had for sitting on the floor, all of the fundamental openings that we were required to sit on the floor and those foundations. Most of us lose it through the domesticity was the word I used, sitting in chairs, sitting in with machines that do things for us. We become very domesticated and lazy in our body. So our body, like an instrument, it goes out of tune, it goes out of tone. And we need the asana to tone up, to get that anamaya kosha looking nice and shiny again, not nice and taut again and toned, yeah, not lazy. And then what happens is that this is the chikitsa, the yoga chikitsa, the primary series is
the primary
toning and
series.
tuning that, toning and tuning that body up, getting it all mobile, so that then you, of course, if you do the structural body, the energy body is going to be also toned and tuned as well. You get your energy flowing, of course, then you're going to be a greater creator of your life because your energy is purer, your energy is clearer. And then, of course, if you've got the energy going, then mind becomes not dull, not clouded, not misjudged. No, the avidya is being washed out. Knowledge is liberation. We want knowledge to become liberated. We will never be liberated from avidya. Yeah. Avidya being laziness, ignorance in terms of what it is. And I don't mean education. I don't mean education as knowledge. It's the experience of life, what it is to be present in life brings you knowledge and wisdom.
Ekatatwa.
Yeah. Take that creative idea, follow it, manifest it.
That's great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining with us once again. Johnny,
Thank you.
we have one more question. Okay. Do you have 5 minutes maybe around it?
Yeah, 5 minutes. Say? I've got to finish my group off. I'm making a cacao and I've got some certificates to hand out. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, last question. So all right. So asking about failure, how to cultivate infinite love to ourselves and other through anger, sorrow, suffering. Does it about to suppress that or combine with the unconditional love and flow?
It starts with yourself. You have to find unconditional love for yourself. To answer Victor's earlier question, where am I now in my life? I'm at a stage where I do not want to compromise myself. And we had a beautiful session with Greg Nardi yesterday in our philosophy online course. And he was translating Brahmacharya. And the way he was translating Brahmacharya was beautiful. And it was about making very clear borders and boundaries with your own borders and boundaries and also other people's borders and boundaries. And basically, to cultivate what you're saying, you've got to first see that you are perfect already without judgment. You are complete without judgment. And you have to have acceptance in yourself. So basically, you have to have your first chakra. The first chakra is to be secure in yourself, steady, your foundation. There's your stera. And so the primary series is really cultivating the Mula Bandha. I then call it the sacral plexus or the sexual plexus, the groins, the second chakra. That's you accepting yourself. If you don't accept yourself, that's when it's out of balance, it's all guilt. If the first chakra is out of balance, it's insecurity, it's fear. And so with your Mula Bandha and your standing, you'll be able to stand for yourself and you'll have no fear. When you feel secure in your foundation with your Mula, then you feel safe to be you, to be who you are. not to not be who you are, not to be afraid to present who you are. And so you have to accept, this is who I chose to be. This is what I chose to be. So second chakra is really important, that you're able to accept you. And then when you get first chakra security and the second chakra safety, then the third chakra, the will, the divine will to live, the fire, the passion to live, this is you having no shame to express yourself. And these three things, fear, guilt, and shame, are very big controlling factors of the paradigm that we live in at the moment. And so this is part of the Adhikara question again too, is that by working with the primary series, you'll get your Mula Bandha, you'll get your groin work, all of that Marichyasana stuff, all of the Janusasana stuff is all working your second chakra. It's also all working your third chakra. Patanjali calls it Nabhi chakra. And Nabhi chakra, if you go in through your Nabhi chakra with Samyama, which is Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, you'll understand the structure of your body. You really start to learn what your body is. And so to really get to the fourth chakra, the heart, to actually start expressing love, you've got to have those first three. You've got to realize you're secure, safe, that you're actually special. You're unique. You are absolutely unique, and it's your right to be able to present yourself without any shame. You'll then find then love is unconditional. Now, unconditional love has a very, very beautiful frequency, but above that frequency, believe it or not, is compassion. And so here's a trinity coming out now. There's the love has a frequency, compassion has a higher frequency. Now, compassion is to have that empathy and understanding that the person may not have their first chakra, second chakra, third chakra in place. And you'll have techniques and ways to help them develop that. So then the one that's actually the most highest of highest frequencies of all is not love, it's not compassion, it's authenticity. And so if nothing is ever linear, it takes you right back, the authenticity of standing for yourself, accepting yourself. Now, if you're able to get that, then you'll understand Maitri. Maitri is the condition where you welcome everything into your life with love and kindness. And from that love and kindness, welcoming everything with love and kindness, you'll then develop the compassion, the compassion to help others, help themselves. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then from that, you'll
so much for
there's two more.
Yes.
You'll understand mudita, which is to be able to be joyous for other people's joy, and then you'll understand upekasham, and upekasham is to understand that no one person is more special than the other. We're all equal. We might just have had a different journey. We might have had different challenges, different hurdles, different programmings. Yeah. And so when you realize that and you find it and you stand for yourself, yeah. When you develop all this within yourself, of course, your question's being answered because it comes from you. You have to work on yourself, and that's what this tapas is. You're meeting yourself on the mat, you're meeting your programs, you're meeting your conditionings, and are you able to make change? You have to make change for yourself to make change in the world. Thank you.
Beautiful. So I have one last question. What is yoga?
Meditation.
Thank you so much, Johnny. So once again, thank you so much for spending a beautiful time. Yeah.
Life is a journey and life is a meditation. I've now got to go. I really do have to go. So thank you so much, everybody.
Sure.
And
yes.
I'd love to talk to you again.
Yes. So we'll connect again probably in the next episode. Hopefully. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. This is the Mindset Mentor by Johnny, aka John Scott, but also we address him as a Johnny. Thank you so much, Johnny. Namaste. Okay. Bye for now.
Namaste. Bye.
Bye for now. Thank you.